Well, hello and welcome to the Paris High School Quarterback Club Coaches Show. I'm Jamie Varnell. I'll be your host for the show this evening. With me is head coach Tyler Clark, and we're going to break down last week's game. We'll talk a little bit about the offense coach, if you don't mind. We'll come back in the second segment. We'll talk about the defense, and then we'll take a look ahead to senior night. And for a few of these guys, their last game wearing the Eagle uniform. And so we're excited about that, excited about what we have. We've had a real good coaches club the other night, or a quarterback club the other night, Coach, and good attendance. And I know sometimes you think that the way wins and losses go might affect attendance. It's a pretty solid group, and everybody's here, everybody's behind the team, and I think we're starting to see some results from that.
Absolutely.
So Coach, the number one thing, we've talked about this a lot of weeks, is the ground game. And Blaze Woods was, maybe one of the only highlights on offense. But my goodness, he punished people Friday night.
Yeah, he had a big night. And Blaze, there's been 2 or 3 times this year where Blaze has kind of, put the team on his shoulders and kind of looked like he did all last year. And the reason we're not seeing quite as much production from Blaze this year is because his role on defense has increased, and that takes its toll. It really does. I mean, that's a kid that never comes off the field, and towards the end we get a little bit tired sometimes. But I was really proud of his effort and the way that he played Friday night.
So Blaze is also one of these young men that's going to graduate this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's his last game that's coming up Friday, and when we saw him, one of the things that we noticed was his quickness through the hole. We were breaking that down in film, and I believe you were talking about Coach Devine had been working with him on some things there, working with all the backs on it. But it is definitely something we have seen from Blaze this year, where he's not trotting out there looking for the hole. He's going, and then he's upfield.
Right. Well, and there's a certain way. I mean, depending on if it's a gap scheme or a zone play, there's a certain way that the running back has to attack the line of scrimmage. He's usually attacking the line of scrimmage with his eyes elsewhere, looking for how a defense is flowing with the play as to where, what hole we're going to hit. And Blaze has gotten really good, and really all of our backs have gotten really good at, pressing one way, making a jump cut, or just putting their foot in the ground, but really being patient with their blockers, and then once we do see a hole, accelerating through it, and being confident. And I don't know if this is the right hole, but maybe this is it. No. When we see the hole, we're going to put our foot in the ground and accelerate. And I think that's a credit to Coach Devine. He's done a really good job for us this year.
And one thing that is unique about Blaze from the other backs is his running style.
Mm-hmm.
He is that Eric Dickerson running to contact. He's pretty upright until right at the point, and usually 2 hands on the ball.
Yeah.
So if you like the old smash mouth, you're going to like the kids at Blaze Woods. Yeah. We had him at 117 yards Friday night, and not only that, man, he had him an egg crate full of carries there too. And so, it was really nice to see the ball control there. Passing game. Now, the numbers overall didn't get where we usually see them.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about that.
It was a rough night for us, and there are a lot of things that went into it, and we had receivers open, and there were times that our quarterback would make good throws, and there were times that the offensive line would protect well, but we could never get all 3 of those things happening at the same time. It was just one of those games where, for whatever reason, we weren't clicking. We may have a good route ran and our quarterback reads it correctly, but then we're getting tackled. Or, our offensive line's protecting well, we've got a good pocket, and maybe we don't have a great route, or maybe we didn't read it well. So very few times that all those things kind of sync up together. So that's something that we've really stressed this week, that we've got to get fixed. And it's one of those things, this is not a problem that we've had all year. It's just something that happens every now and then. It just so happened to be against Greenland at the worst possible time. But
and in all probability, it looks like Greenland's probably going to fall into that 3-4 slot.
Yeah.
in the playoffs.
Yeah, then they're a good football team.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the better football teams we've seen this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was, we saw that even before the game started when they lined up about 15 seniors across there to walk out for their senior night last week. Now, one thing that, and you actually just kind of alluded to it, was maybe sometimes we'll get the route not exactly right or what. You actually had that on your touchdown play. You were saying, the angle was a little off, but there is a chemistry between Keller Keene and Watts.
Absolutely.
And we saw that, and it turned into points.
Yeah, I mean, on that, we want a little bit of a tighter angle on the route that Keller was running. But instead of standing and saying, uh-oh, because it wasn't a busted play, it just didn't hit right when it's supposed to. Keller just kept running his route, found a soft spot, and Chase, credit to him for keeping his eyes downfield, evading a little bit of the pressure and making a good throw on fourth down.
And so before we get done with offense, I want to just stop and take a second. Now, I have a soft spot for all those guys in the trenches. And you had a pretty solid rotation. A lot of guys went through there. And it's really a mixed bag of guys. You've got some real bulk in there. And then you've got some guys that have really just learned the skill set and are making plays for you. Tell me a little bit about the development of the offensive line as you've seen it go through the year.
Well, to me, an offensive line, if you've got 5 guys up front, game after game after game, you're going to end up being really good because, offensive line is one of the harder positions to play in the sport. And
you can say that again if you like. I'm not sure all the skill position players heard that. Yeah,
O-line's tough, and it's one of those things that the longer you're playing next to a guy and understand his movements and what he's thinking and what he's going to say or what he's got to do when a backer walks up into his gap or we get a stunt into our gap, whatever it may be, those are snap decisions we have to make. And when you know what the guy next to you is going to do, you're usually a lot better. You have some chemistry. We haven't been fortunate enough to have that chemistry this year. Adam Chandler, Ethan Needham, Jimmy Dykeman, and Ryan Post have all been mainstays on the offensive line, and they do a really good job for us. And then at right guard, we've got Daniel Heist, DJ Spicer, and Isaac Dyer, who are all doing really good things at times. And then at other times we make mistakes. But, all 3 of those guys, 2 of them are sophomores, one's a junior, and all 3 of them are seeing their first meaningful reps as a high schooler. So the encouraging thing is, because we've been rotating 3 for so long, we're building depth along the offensive line. Now, for this year, just this year, would I have liked to have had just 5 guys? Absolutely. But I think it's going to help us out in the long run that we've built a little bit of depth.
And I've noticed the development of Ryan Post, coming up and being first year playing senior high ball. He is now your second, biggest, bulkiest guy on the roster now.
Yeah.
I think he's actually a little bit bigger than Chandler. Can't wait to see what another year in the weight room does for Post.
Yeah, we're really excited about Ryan. He's one of those. We talked about Blaze being an old school runner. First off, Jimmy Dykeman and Adam Chandler do an outstanding job up front. They really do. But Ryan Post is one of those kids. He's kind of like one of those old school offensive linemen. He's going to try to do his job, but really and truly, he's just mean and wants to get after somebody. And I love it. We need it.
It's easy to coach that.
Absolutely.
When you've got that. Well, Coach, we thank you for your thoughts on the offense. We're going to take just a real quick break, and when we come back, we're going to break down the defense. And we did see some really good things on the defense this week. Even though we like to look at the scoreboard, we might think otherwise. So when we come back, we'll break that down and tell you a little bit about how Paris schemed to face Greenland last week. All right, well, we're back. And, Coach, we're going to talk about the defensive side of the ball. And I know that, some people that may not have been there, they're looking at the score and they're just like, my goodness, how can you say the defense played well? This defense actually played pretty well. And I would say, I throw a number out at you, off camera that I said I thought 90% of our plays, we actually did what we were supposed to on defense.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fairly safe assumption. It may be a tad lower, but it's certainly close to that. What happened Friday night is it seemed to snowball for us. And what happened, Greenland goes down and scores, no big deal. That makes it 14-0. They had scored earlier in the game, but we had kind of been going back and forth again. So they make it 14-0. We get the ball on our second play from offense. We throw an interception on about the 30. So now Greenland has 30 yards to go score. anytime you put your defense in a short field like that, you can't really expect them to hold all the time. You know, that's putting your defense in a really tough spot. And we give up a touchdown there. Then on the ensuing kickoff, we fumble the kick return, and they go down and score again. So what was 7-0 in a matter of about 5 minutes, it turned into 28-0. And you know, that's one of those deals. It hurts our kids and it makes us lose momentum, and at the same time, it gets theirs excited. It helps theirs. So it's tough to overcome that swing.
And that was, you know, we looked at some of those things. It was just a misread here. And, you know, Keller's been really good with ball control. He actually has a really good return. The return was right up near midfield and just, you know, takes one of those awkward hits and spins him around, ball popped loose. You know, and so it put the defense in some real tough position. And, you know, half of that's is mental as much as it's physical.
Absolutely. When
you're going out there with that. I think it's safe to talk about this. We talk about the scheme and how you face the team that, you know, likes to pull those tackles and move them down the line, get those extra blockers out. And that's something that Paris folks know. They can tell you back in the Dennis Crane era that was something that all those linemen were moving every play.
Right.
And so they've seen that plenty. I really like how you schemed against it. And not only that, and one guy really showed out in the stat column, but really overall, your defensive line put on the show.
Yeah, they did. They played well. And you know, there are a few things that we did that I thought we've done. We did the best Friday night that we have all year. You know, we were shooting our hands and using them really well. We were playing with great pad level, and we had a high motor. Every kid out there had a high motor. And, you know, Adam Chandler had a huge night at defensive end. Greenland kept running a particular play where they pulled the guard tackle. We call it GT, and we coach every single week, every single day on defense. When your tackle pulls, get in his hip pocket and go. And I mean, it's an EDD, which is what we call our everyday drills. We do it every single day. As a defensive end, you know your tackle. He's either going to base you, he's going to down block, he's going to reach, or he's going to pull. There's only 4 things he can do, and so we rep our reaction to those every day. And you know, Adam did an outstanding job, and he's got great footwork, and he's a really good athlete for his size. And that's part of why he's able to make those plays. But the honest truth, why Adam made those plays is because he's doing what he's coached to do. And that's exciting for us as coaches, you know, and it's something that we can get in the film room and say, hey, what are you coached to do when your tackle pulls? Well, Adam's doing it right here on film, and look, he's making a tackle in the backfield. You know, it gives a little bit more validity than what we already have as coaches.
Right, and that's something that in the quarterback club we've got to hear about through the season. Hey, we want to get behind him. You know, this is what we're supposed to do. And we can remember those early games. It was just a different concept, and they weren't doing it. But my goodness, Friday when we were watching the film Monday, it would seem like just over and over again. I mean, didn't even have to pause the film.
Right.
Guys that were sitting in the room were saying, "Wow, he went right down the line. He followed him down the line." And as those backs turned back into the inside, there was no running lanes there.
Right.
So boy, you know, it's nice to see that happen. You had some good pressure on the outside. Of course, you did have a few mismatches. They had a big receiver.
They had a few.
You know, and so you're asking some of our little guys to cover somebody almost a foot taller than them. And honestly, they did a pretty solid job out there on the edge most of the night.
Absolutely. I mean, our kids make mistakes, but we talk a lot, especially when we're watching film, and we handle them differently as a staff as far as what we say to our players. And we talked about it Monday night at the quarterback club. There's a difference, in my opinion, of an effort mistake and a stupid mistake. You know, they're just like there's a difference in an effort penalty and a dumb penalty. And I think both of those need to be treated differently. And one thing that's good about this team, I don't think we've been penalized a ton this year, but we have had our fair share of flags. But I would say the majority of them are effort penalties or are mistakes. You know, they're effort mistakes, not us just not thinking or not paying attention.
Right. There's a couple of things I want to address there with that, Coach. Obviously, we want to talk about, and we had between the two teams, I believe there are 8 personal fouls or misconduct calls. Eventually, one given to both benches on a play. It was a chippy night.
It was.
But some of that also was just good aggressive football. There was a couple, I think, the late hits out of bounds were a little, right there. I don't think anybody. especially knowing the guys who they were called on, or not guys that are going to be going over
Right.
there headhunting on the sideline. But let's just talk about that for a second, a little bit about how you handle that and how going forward.
Well, I mean, personal fouls are unacceptable. They are, and there's a little bit of a scuffle on the field, and there's ways to help your teammate. We tell our guys all the time, all we have is each other, and you've got to protect the guy next to you. You got to have his back. But in the game of football, it's not the game of fighting. You know what I mean? I don't care how many of our guys are tough and think that they can fight on the streets. That has no value to me because I'm not a fighting coach. I'm a football coach, and we're not going to do it. If you have that guy's back, if there's 3 guys from another team surrounding yours, we'll go grab him and pull him out of there. But there's no need for us to jump in there and start doing stuff too. It's unacceptable. It's a bad look for us, and that's something that's. I would be dumb to guarantee that it will never happen again, but it sure as heck better not.
Right, and so I want to address something. This is something we haven't discussed about, but I got the email today, and I don't know if it went out to the coaches or not from the AAA regarding they were talking toward the postseason, but I think it's something that, and we talk about the officiating regularly. Well, almost every week we address it, and some weeks it's good, some weeks it's bad. The best is when it's indifferent.
Sure.
And so the AAA put out a press release today, and I just felt like doing our due diligence and following up with that. They sent from their office the letter that they sent asked us to post was honestly pretty mild. They said maybe it was a little stiff, but the letter they sent us as to why I thought was more telling, and that was just about fan misconduct in the stands, and we don't want that, and we don't want to go on the road and have our fans be yelling. We don't want people to come to our place. And the statistic they gave today is that we're losing 80% of our officials in the first 2 years because of fan misconduct. And so, we encourage you to get out there and yell, cheer your kids, but let coach handle the officiating, and let's leave it there because I can't remember a game. I mean, other than maybe West Fork last year on the road when that was handled wrong, but we're not going to bring up that. But when the officials cost us a game.
Right.
And for us to say that, and honestly, even over there, were it not for a million injuries, that game's right. Out of reach. And we kind of joke about it. But so we will encourage you. Come out there, yell for your guys, cheer them on, let coach handle the stuff on the field. And so maybe if we want the officiating to get better, guys, it's going to take 3 or 4 years of getting these guys out there and letting them officiate these games. Because guess what? Just like you might have a freshman football player out there, there's some freshman referees. And I know it feels like sometimes we get them every week. Yeah. But, the AAA put that out there this week, and I just felt like we should address that. Hey, when we come back, we're going to jump in and take a look at senior night and what lays ahead for the Paris Eagles in their last home game for the 2019 season. Well, we're back, and we're going to take one last look forward, Coach, and talk about Mansfield. Now, there's a lot of people around here that know the last name of Stovall. Their family is from over this way. Their quarterback, we've seen the team just like it. And when we played Charleston in a game that was very much in reach, had a quarterback and an offense really that's a lot like Mansfield. Got a large, slow-moving quarterback, but he's a real good decision-maker to win the ball.
Yeah, the Stovall kid's really good, and he's got some pretty good receivers to throw to as well. I think probably the 2 best receivers in our conference, number 1 and number 7, and really, honestly, number 12 too. Really, really good ball players. So, it's we're going to have to play a really good football game, and we plan on it being a battle Friday night.
Yeah, I think. The difference is it's going to come down to maybe the defensive line. If the defensive line can get in there and get some pressure, get a couple of licks on him.
Yeah, I mean, chances. Yeah, if we can get some pressure, that would be awesome. But I can tell you now with his arm, if we let anyone behind us at all, we're in trouble. They're one of those teams that there are a lot of teams we play where if someone gets behind us, their quarterback probably doesn't have the arm to get it out there anyways, but this one does. So. We've got to do a really good job of keeping everything in front of us and making them have 13, 14, 15 play drives and not just big playing us to death. And if we can do that, I think I think it's going to be really advantageous for us. And then offensively, we've just got to do we've got to execute and do the things that we need to do.
That's exactly where I was going to go with that. I feel like if you guys execute the ball like you did against even West Fork, and I realize the defense, it's probably going to be a little tougher than it was against West Fork. But with West Fork, it was execution and on both sides of the ball. If you do that, I think you can do the same. You
Absolutely
get some good running lanes and then get back over the top.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the opponent doesn't even matter. It's all about execution. If can we do our job and make the correct reads, and a lot of people don't think about it. And this is this way for every team in the country. It's just something that you have to get good at. But again, we got to get offensive line to protect well. We got to get our quarterback to make good reads. Our receivers have to run good routes. We got to catch the ball. There's a lot of things that go into just one successful play.
Right.
There's a reason we want to make people drive 13, 14 plays because even the really good ones struggle to execute properly 13, 14, 15 times in a row. So execution is the key, and it's something that hopefully we can kind of all string together on Friday night. It'd be big for us.
Yeah, Mansfield's a team that we've watched go from barely being in the 3A and then going all the way up into 4, and now they're back down in 3A. Their numbers are pretty solid from what I've seen. So they're gonna have some fresh legs out there. We talked about that keys, offense, defense. I think the third factor we got to look at here, it's senior night, and we should have a really good crowd there.
I hope so. I mean, it's regardless of wins and losses, if people are genuinely worried about Paris football, we got to fill the stands because we play better when the stands are full, and that's not a Paris thing. That's just kids in today's world. When more people are there to watch, when they think more people care, they're going to play better. That's just the honest truth. And I think we will have a good crowd. I've been really pleased with our crowds all year, and I know it makes our kids play harder and get a little bit more excited and all those things. So really looking forward to Friday night.
And what I believe is a testament to that. I think that probably the weakest fourth quarter crowd we've had all year was probably West Fork when the game was in hand. And you had a running clock. That was probably the smallest crowd you had at the close of a game. So that's a real positive there. So, Coach, we're looking at the playoffs. Bears are going to be on the outside looking in. Would love to be able to make some noise with a win this week. However, it looks like this is fairly well set. We kind of knew who the 1 and 2 were going to be, I think, after about 2 weeks in conference play. The odd man out likely is going to be Cedarville.
Yep.
And, we were just talking off camera. We haven't run the numbers, but quite possibly the highest yardage rushing team in the conference is going to be sitting at home in the playoffs. And so, here's the other thing, too, is that's how deep this conference is. Outside of whoever goes in that final slot, whether it's Mansfield or whoever, and even Mansfield then, but that team's going to have a pretty rough go of it because they're going to have to go over and probably face Prescott, I would guess.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. And our conference is really tough. And it's, if you can get into the playoffs, it becomes a blessing for you that you were in such a tough conference because you're much more prepared. But, there's a team that we beat early in the season that's probably going to be a 4 seed in their conference and go to the playoffs. So it's tough. And I'm not so sure if we weren't in some other conferences, we wouldn't be a playoff team. But, all we can do now is turn what's a negative into a positive. We missed the playoffs, and that's not acceptable. That's not what we want. But we're going to turn it into our advantage. We get to spend 3 to 4 weeks in the weight room before anyone else, or at least the 5 best teams in our conference and the majority of teams in the state. So we're going to take advantage, and next year we're going to be 5 weeks stronger than everybody.
Yeah, and
that's
so
the plan.
I think outside of whoever's the last team in, they're going to have a pretty tough go of it. I think everybody else has got a chance to advance to another week. I think that's how deep the conference is.
Yeah.
And not only that, what you were just talking about, and I was already thinking about that team that Paris beat earlier. I think they were just blew a fourth quarter lead away from being the number 2 seed in the conference. And so, it makes a big difference where you're at and who you're playing against. And so these young men, They have put in a lot of effort, put in a lot of work. We're going to honor a group of seniors that have really been a great transition group. I feel like this has been a good group for you that's helped you mentor your young guys.
It has, and these seniors, this program is going to be in debt to those kids for a long time, because from the time they were freshmen to now their senior year, they've been through 3 different head coaches, and that's crazy. I mean, that's tough on any group, and that's probably a little bit of the reason as to why there's only 6 of them. It's tough to handle change, but these kids have given everything that they have to Paris football for the last 3 years, and certainly the last 2 years that I've been here. I've loved being around every one of them, and they're going to be sorely missed next year, every single one of them.
Absolutely. Great group of young men, and we've enjoyed being around, had several of them in here throughout this year. Well, Coach, we thank you for your time. Look forward next week. We'll have one last show to wrap up the season, and hopefully be looking back on a win over the team that I actually picked to win the conference at the beginning of the year was Mansfield. But I'm picking them to lose Friday night.
I got you.
All right?
I got you.
So we thank you guys for joining us. Just remember, it's a great day to be an Eagle. Go Big Blue.